So far this semester, we've been talking about MATLAB. And MATLAB and C, the two languages that we'll learn in this class, are what are considered high-level languages. Believe it or not, they're actually easier for people to understand than the lower-level languages that the computer can actually understand and execute. So all of those expressions that we write in MATLAB have to get turned into something that the computer can execute, so something that's binary or maybe expressed in hexadecimal. So we talked a little bit about those representations earlier in the semester. So how do these expressions that we write actually get turned into something that the computer can execute? Well, we're going to take a step back and kind of talk about the whole programming process here for a minute. So what usually happens is we have some sort of problem that we want to solve. So let's say I have a pie and I want to know how big it is, right? Well, I might say, I don't know exactly how to find out how big a pie is, but I can turn this into a problem that I do know how to solve, which is to find the area of a circle. Be a rough estimation, right, of the size of my pie. So then I could look at area of the circle and say, well, I can break this down into an algorithm, a step-by-step process where I know that at the end I'll have the result that I want. And so I need to find the radius of my circle, or here my pie, and then actually calculate the area using pi r squared, and then output the results. Right? So if I follow those three steps, I'll go from measuring the radius of my circle to getting an estimate for the overall size of my pie. So I'll take my algorithm and I'll translate that into a series of MATLAB expressions that I can execute. And MATLAB will actually execute those expressions for me on the computer, and I'll get back a result that represents the size of my pie, hopefully. All right, so then how does that actually happen? How do those commands that I type into MATLAB get turned into something that can be run on the computer? Well, there are two kinds of programming languages: compiled languages and interpreted languages. MATLAB is an interpreted language. So basically what that means to us is that the commands get interpreted as they are sent to the computer, kind of one at a time. That's why we can type things in the command window and get a result back immediately. We'll see how this is different from compiled languages when we get to see a little bit later in the semester. So far, we've been typing one expression at a time in the command window in MATLAB. That expression gets immediately interpreted and we get the result back. That's worked okay so far, but we're about to learn some more complicated program control structures, and it's going to be much more convenient to be able to have one file that contains a bunch of expressions that we can just hand over to the interpreter all at once. And so in MATLAB, the way that you do that is you write what's called a script file. And a script file is just a collection of expressions that get executed one after another in the interpreter, but we give the interpreter one file all at once instead of having to do one line at a time. So today we're going to learn how to write scripts, and then we'll also learn how to write functions, which at first seem kind of similar but have some really important differences.